In 1879, the only son of Napoleon III rode into the wild hills of Zululand, dreaming of glory. He was young, ambitious, and desperate to prove himself in war, but within hours he would be dead, abandoned in the African grasslands surrounded by Zulu warriors. What happened next shocked Europe. When British soldiers finally found his body, it was covered in assegai wounds. His sword lay broken beside him, and every wound was in the front of his body, showing that the Prince Imperial of France had faced his enemies to the very end. Tonight, we are going to hear the real eyewitness accounts of the death of the Prince Imperial during the Anglo-Zulu War. From the men who rode beside him, the soldiers who recovered his body, and the testimony that revealed how one of Europe's most tragic royal deaths unfolded in the long grass of Zululand.
We left camp at about 8:30 in the morning for a reconnaissance towards the Itiotiosi River. The prince accompanied the party voluntarily. We reached a deserted kraal about 10 o'clock and halted there. The horses were unsaddled and allowed to graze while the men rested. The prince seated himself near one of the huts and began sketching the surrounding country. We had been there perhaps an hour when our native guide suddenly gave the alarm, crying out that the Zulus were upon us. Almost immediately several Zulus appeared through the long grass surrounding the kraal. Every man ran to seize his horse. The enemy were advancing rapidly, and firing was already beginning. The prince caught his horse by the bridle and attempted to mount. The horse, becoming frightened, bounded away before he had gained a secure seat. The prince held on to the holster for some distance, but the leather gave way and he was violently thrown to the ground. I shouted to him to mount behind one of the men, but the panic among the horses and the suddenness of the attack caused great confusion. As we rode off pursued by the enemy, I looked back and saw the prince standing alone upon the ground facing the Zulus. He had drawn his revolver and appeared to fire at the advancing warriors. The Zulus closed round him almost immediately afterwards, and he disappeared from my sight. On the following day a party returned to search for the body. It was discovered lying in a dry watercourse, stripped of clothing according to the Zulu custom. The body bore numerous assegai wounds, all in front, proving that he had died facing his enemies. The ground around showed clear signs of a desperate struggle. His sword was broken near the body and the revolver lay close beside him.
We discovered the body lying in a little donga some distance from the place where the horses had been mounted. The prince was entirely stripped, according to the custom of the Zulus, except for a chain around his neck bearing a small religious medal. The body was covered with assegai wounds. One wound had penetrated the right eye and entered the brain. Another had pierced the heart. There were many other wounds upon the arms, chest and thighs. Nearly all were in front of the body. From the nature and direction of the wounds, it was clear that the prince had faced his assailants and resisted desperately before being overpowered. Around the place where the body was found, the ground was trampled and disturbed, plainly showing that a severe struggle had taken place. Near the body were found the prince's revolver and the fragments of his sword.
We saw the white man standing alone after his horse had gone away. He turned and faced us. He had a revolver in his hand and fired at us as we came on. We were many, and we rushed upon him quickly. He fought with great courage. One of our men was struck as we closed with him. The white man tried to pull an assegai from his body and continued struggling even after he had fallen. At last, he died there among the grass. We said afterwards among ourselves that he was a brave man, because he did not run away, but stood facing us until he was killed.
The prince had been warned repeatedly not to expose himself unnecessarily, but he was eager to see active service and insisted upon accompanying the patrol. After the alarm was given at the kraal, The whole affair happened with extraordinary suddenness. The Zulus sprang up from the grass almost within striking distance. The prince's horse became unmanageable while he was mounting, and he was thrown before he could recover himself. Those who escaped stated that they last saw him standing on foot facing the enemy with his revolver. When the body was recovered the next day, every circumstance showed that he had sold his life dearly. The ground around him was torn up by the struggle. His sword was broken, and his body bore many assegai wounds, nearly all in front. It was evident that he had died fighting bravely against overwhelming numbers.
The prince had ridden out with the reconnaissance in excellent spirits and seemed delighted at the opportunity of seeing active operations in the field. On arriving at the deserted kraal, the party halted without believing there was any immediate danger near at hand. The horses were allowed to graze while the men rested beside the huts. The prince sat down with notebook and pencil and occupied himself making sketches of the country. The alarm came suddenly. A warning cry was raised by the native guide, and almost at once Zulus were seen springing up through the long grass surrounding the kraal. The party rushed instantly to mount. In the confusion, several horses became frightened. The prince attempted to spring into the saddle, but before he had properly secured himself, the horse bounded violently forward. He was seen clinging to the saddle for some distance before falling heavily to the ground. The Zulus were then within a few yards of him. Those who escaped afterwards declared that the prince showed no sign of panic. Standing alone, he turned to face the advancing warriors and fired his revolver repeatedly as they rushed upon him with assegais. His companions, themselves closely pursued, were unable to return to his assistance. When the body was discovered the next day, it lay in a dry watercourse some distance from the kraal. The clothing had been removed according to Zulu custom, but around the body the trampled earth and broken grass showed clearly that a fierce struggle had occurred. The prince's sword was found broken near him, and his revolver lay close by empty of ammunition. The medical examination revealed numerous assegai wounds, nearly all received in front of the body, proving that he had continued facing his attackers until the moment of his death.
The coffin of the Prince Imperial was borne through the camp with full military honours. The troops lined the route in profound silence as the funeral procession passed. The body had been wrapped in the imperial cloak, and upon the coffin rested the sword and uniform of the prince. Lord Chelmsford and many officers of the army attended the ceremony, together with a large number of soldiers who had served in the campaign. As the coffin was lowered into the grave, many among those present were visibly affected. Strong men who had faced battle without fear were seen in tears. The funeral service was read slowly and solemnly beneath the African sky, while the troops stood motionless around the grave. At the conclusion of the ceremony, 3 volleys were fired over the grave, and the buglers sounded the last post. The silence afterwards was most impressive.